Welcome. Today we're unpacking a complex economic issue. Why it's a huge problem for the rich if most American consumers can't easily afford over 98% of American products and services without debt. Our economy is a vast, interconnected web of transactions, where the flow of money is as vital as the flow of blood in our bodies. But lately, the pulse of our economy seems to be faltering. The wealth gap in America is growing, with a small percentage of people holding the majority of wealth, while most Americans find themselves struggling to afford even the most basic necessities without going into debt. Now you might be thinking, why should the rich care? They're doing just fine, right? The answer is more complicated than you might think. The health and prosperity of the wealthy class is more intertwined with the financial well-being of the average American than it may appear on the surface. Intrigued? Let's dive into the reasons this is a pressing issue. First, we have concerns CNRs about economic instability. When the majority of Americans can't easily afford most products and services, consumer spending takes a nosedive. Consumer spending, folks, is a massive driver of the American economy, accounting for about 2/3 of our gross domestic product. So a decline in spending can trigger economic instability. Now let's look at how this affects the wealthy. Economic instability can lead to market volatility. And that's not great news for the rich. Their investments can take a hit, and the value of their assets can decrease. Plus, businesses they own or invest in may see reduced profits due to lower consumer spending. Whenever an investor gets an increasing share of a decreasing market, then the results are bad news financially for such an investor. That's the same for the concept of consumer spending. The more that the rich have fewer consumers, then down the toilet tubes the rich go. It's a huge problem for the rich if they unwittingly destroy their own consumer base by not helping consumers to easily afford everything that consumers need without needing debt. It's like a domino effect. Less consumer spending leads to economic instability, which can then lead to financial losses for the rich. In short, the wealth of the rich isn't insulated from the economic health of the broader population. Economic instability is something no one, rich or poor, wants to deal with. Next on the list is the looming threat of the debt bubble. This is a scenario where the debt of consumers, be it credit card debt, mortgage debt, or other forms of borrowing, balloons to such an extent that it becomes unsustainable or totally unaffordable both financially and time-wise. Solving problems takes some time. It's like blowing up a balloon. You can keep pumping in air, but eventually the balloon can't hold anymore and it bursts. Now, replace air with debt, and balloon with economy. The result? A debt bubble burst. When this happens, it's not just the borrowers who suffer. The rich, who often are the lenders, also face losses. If people are unable to repay their loans, the rich lose out on the money they lent out. The ripple effect may cause their assets to depreciate, their businesses to suffer, and their wealth to dwindle. So, a debt bubble can pose a real threat to the wealth of the rich. Now let's talk about decreased demand. Imagine a bustling marketplace full of goods and services, but the crowd of consumers, well, they don't have enough money to buy. This is what happens when most Americans can't easily afford over 98% of American products and services without falling into debt. The result? Decreased demand. When people can't afford to buy, businesses can't sell. Sales drop, profits shrink, and this can hurt businesses. But the ripple doesn't stop there. The rich who own these businesses feel the sting too. Their wealth, tied up in these businesses, can dwindle as demand decreases. They may even face the unpleasant reality of their businesses folding up. This is not a hypothetical scenario. It's a real threat that can happen when the majority of consumers are priced out of the market. So, decreased demand doesn't just affect the everyday consumer, it can have a significant impact on the rich. Another reason is lower investment returns. When consumers are unable to afford the majority of American products and services, they inevitably spend less. This reduced spending translates into lower revenues for businesses. Now, when businesses experience lower revenues, their profitability takes a hit, and this, in turn, impacts the returns on investments made in these businesses. For instance, if you're a wealthy individual who has invested in a company, your returns are largely dependent on that company's financial performance. If the company's sales are plummeting due to decreased consumer spending, its profits will shrink, and so will your returns. This scenario is not just limited to one or two companies. When the majority of consumers are spending less, it affects the entire economy, leading to a potential downturn. In such a situation, most investments could yield lower returns. Thus, the rich can face lower investment returns. Moving on, we have social instability. It's no secret that economic inequality can act as a catalyst for social unrest. When a large portion of the population struggles to afford basic commodities, dissatisfaction grows. This dissatisfaction, if left unchecked, can lead to protests, strikes, and in extreme cases, even riots. Now, why should this concern the rich? Well, because social unrest can lead to changes in government policies, which might not always favor the wealthy. Moreover, it can disrupt the normal functioning of society, impacting businesses and investments. For instance, if a protest leads to a shutdown of a business district, it's not just the common people who suffer, the rich do too, because their businesses suffer. And let's not forget the psychological toll that social instability can have. No one wants to live in a society that's constantly on the brink of chaos. Social instability can be a major concern for the rich. Next up, increased taxes. Let's delve into how this financial mechanism can impact the wealthy. When a significant portion of the population struggles to afford basic goods and services, governments often respond by implementing wealth redistribution policies. This typically means higher taxes for the rich. Now, why does this matter? Simply put, the more taxes the rich pay, the less they keep. Increased taxes directly decrease the wealth of the affluent. It's a simple equation, but it carries hefty implications. Wealthy individuals often use their abundance to invest in businesses, fueling economic growth and creating job opportunities. When their wealth decreases due to higher taxes, their ability to make these investments can be diminished. In turn, this can slow economic growth and job creation, leading to a domino effect that can impact the entire economy. So, as we can see, increased taxes can take a bite out of the wealth of the rich. Let's now discuss decreased opportunities for wealth accumulation. Wealth is not created in a vacuum. It is often the result of a thriving, dynamic economy where money flows freely, and opportunities for investment and growth abound. Now imagine a scenario where a majority of consumers can't easily afford most products and services without resorting to debt. The ripple effects of this are far-reaching. With less consumer spending, businesses see reduced profits. This in turn leads to fewer investment opportunities for the wealthy. As a result, the engine of wealth creation starts to sputter, and the rich may find themselves navigating a landscape with fewer opportunities to grow their wealth. It's like trying to harvest crops from a field that hasn't been watered. You simply can't expect a bountiful yield, so the rich may find fewer opportunities to grow their wealth. Another important reason is the wealth effect. When the economy is unstable, the rich tend to spend less. This may seem like a wise move, saving for the rainy days. However, this can lead to a downward economic spiral. Here's how it works. When the rich spend less, there's less money circulating in the economy. Businesses, from local stores to multinational corporations, experience reduced sales. This leads to lower profits, forcing these businesses to cut costs, often through layoffs or reduced wages. But here's the kicker. These layoffs and wage cuts mean that everyday consumers have even less money to spend, leading to further reduced sales. It's a vicious cycle that can lead to economic recessions or even depressions. And as the economy weakens, so does the value of the rich's investments, reducing their wealth. Therefore, the wealth effect can have a profound impact on the wealth of the rich. Finally, the threat to luxury brands. You see, luxury brands are like the crown jewels of the marketplace. They're not just products. They're symbols of success, status, and aspiration. Now, when the majority of consumers can't afford these high-end products, these brands face a serious challenge. They depend on a steady stream of affluent customers to keep their wheels spinning. As fewer people can afford their products, sales take a hit. This directly impacts the wealthy individuals who own or invest in these brands. Their returns shrink and their investments lose value. It's like a castle built on sand. Without a solid base of consumers, it's bound to crumble. Furthermore, a decline in luxury spending can be a bellwether for broader economic issues. When people don't have disposable income for luxuries, it's a sign that the economy may not be as healthy as it seems. The threat to luxury brands can be a real concern for the rich. The solution ultimately is to help Americans to become rich financially, and it must be done ethically. When truly ethical products, services, and methods are used, then everyone can thrive more easily, including businesses. It should be common sense that keeping and growing wealth is largely dependent on a large population of rich consumers. Also, America needs to do as much or more as the French Sovereign Wealth Fund. but with privately funded efforts such as really effective local American, truly positively effective philanthropic efforts. If there's any nation that should be more wholeheartedly and empathetically supporting righteous, ethical, entrepreneurial efforts most, it's the United States of America. We can do even better than the French efforts by throwing extra support towards supporting ethical female entrepreneurs here in America. Recent science shows that females have superior cognitive abilities compared to males, and the companies that recognize it and use such female talents ethically have far more success long-term. So there you have it. We've journeyed through the 9 reasons why a society where most American consumers can't easily afford the vast majority of American products and services without debt is a serious issue, even for the rich. From economic instability to the threat to luxury brands, the repercussions are far-reaching and can potentially destabilize the very fabric of our society. So one of the best things we can do is effectively enrich the poor. We should have righteously created and privately funded programs to help the poor to earn their own wealth. We need to be as good or better than the methods of the French Sovereign Wealth Fund, and we must put supporting ethical efforts of aspiring female entrepreneurs first for the best national success of America long-term. When the wealth gap widens, it leads to a decrease in demand, lower investment returns, social instability, increased taxes, and reduced opportunities for wealth accumulation. It's a cycle that can be detrimental to both ends of the financial spectrum, but there's hope. By promoting ethical entrepreneurial efforts, encouraging wealth creation among all Americans, and valuing the role of every consumer, we can create a healthier economic environment. A society where wealth isn't just concentrated at the top, but is spread across the board and benefits everyone. What else do you know about how keeping and growing wealth is largely dependent on a large population of rich consumers? Let's continue this important conversation in the comments below. Thanks for watching and sharing this video.